The discrimination was so blatant that I really had difficulty believing it. We were denied access to the field house. We could not get our teams into the field house. The only facility we really had was Halsey Hall, which was tiny, and we had regulation nothing, you know. And we had no uniforms, no equipment, certainly no athletic scholarships. We had coaches who were graduate students who paid for the privilege of coaching.
In 1972, in the heartland of America, and on the cusp of Title IX's passage, Scotland native and Iowa transplant Dr. Christine Grant leveraged the law and her platform as a college athletic director to passionately advocate for equal participation, funding, facilities, and respect for women in athletics. Beyond overcoming harsh criticism and institutional roadblocks for 5 decades to forge new opportunities for females in athletics nationwide, Grant's actions also successfully transformed women's experiences in education, the workplace, and overall society. Throughout history, women have experienced gender limitations in their daily lives. In the workplace, women were often only permitted to pursue careers as nurses and teachers, while men were allowed to enter any career they wanted. On the playing field, a full array of fully funded competitive sports options were offered to men by schools and colleges nationwide. In situations where women were permitted to participate in sports, they were mostly limited to tennis and golf, which were considered to be more ladylike activities, or were provided options for non-funded club sports only. As a result, female participation numbers were extremely low, and it was often explained that girls just weren't interested in sports. However, in the 1960s, the mindset started to change. With civil rights activism on the rise and a wave of feminism sweeping the nation, women began fighting for opportunities and rights denied to them because of their gender. June 23, 1972, was a breakthrough moment for females when Title IX of the Education Amendments was signed into law by President Richard M. Nixon, which prohibited sex discrimination in any educational program receiving federal financial assistance. While intended to improve educational access and outcomes for women, it quickly became clear that the law applied to women's sports as well, and the newly appointed women's athletic director at the University of Iowa, Dr. Christine Grant, soon pioneered the charge for gender equality in sports. Dr. Christine Grant was born in Bo'ness, Scotland, on May 27, 1936, to Donald and Anne and Jean Grant. Throughout high school, Grant participated in field hockey and then continued her academic studies at Dunfermline College in Aberdeen, Scotland, where she received her diploma of physical education. She then became a high school teacher and coach in Scotland. After leaving teaching, she was a coach and umpire for field hockey at the high school and collegiate levels, as well as coached the women's national field hockey team in Canada, where women's sports were well funded and supported. However, the lure of attaining her PhD caused Grant to pack her bags and move to Iowa City to further her education at the University of Iowa. 4 years later, she earned her PhD in physical education, and with the passage of Title IX, was offered a position as the first women's athletic director at the University of Iowa, a place from which she was poised to push gender boundaries for females in athletics. From 1973 to 2000, Grant worked tirelessly at the University of Iowa to build up the women's athletic program. Grant was a careful listener, never complained about issues without bringing a solution to the table, and relied on data rather than emotion when making her arguments. She would present graphs and charts on participation, budgets, and more to bring about positive change.
She earned the respect of men in her domain because she was articulate. She backed it up with data and evidence. I think deep down, they all knew she was right. and they knew that for their daughter, she should have the same access and the same opportunities.
As a result, the University of Iowa became a premier program in women's athletics, luring away big-name coaches like Judith Davison in field hockey and C. Vivian Stringer in basketball.
Hiring the best coaches that I can possibly find. That's why the program is successful. It's because I have great people in the program. It's amazing that we've managed to convince people of that quality to come to the Midwest.
Grant also branded the women's program to emphasize the female in Iowa sports and put Iowa on the map.
This was a women's athletics logo that was adopted in 1974. And again, this was one of Christine's brilliant ideas. I mean, she wanted something that was that you could identify with the women's athletic department at Iowa right away.
Additionally, Grant fought for and spoke on behalf of women's equality in collegiate level sports nationwide. She also recognized the power of collective action to advance this cause. As a result, Grant became the leading voice and a founding member of the Association for Intercollegiate Athletics for Women, or AIAW, an organization that started in the early 1970s to offer women of America the opportunity to play college-level sports, much like the men they were surrounded by. There, she served as the president or other chair member from 1979 to 1982. This association allowed women to play in collegiate-level championships, offered a multitude of sports, and gained popularity for women and their athletic ability. However, in the early 1980s, conflicts arose between the National Collegiate Athletics Association and the AIAW. This created much tension and eventually led to the AIAW being discontinued on June 30th, 1983. After the discontinuation, Grant no longer held her spot on the board, but she continued her efforts elsewhere. This included giving speeches and traveling across America to advocate for women's equality. At Iowa, she was also a consultant for the Civil Rights Title IX Task Force. After this, she served on a board of directors for the National Association of Collegiate Women Athletic Administrators, which is now known as Women's Leaders in College Sports. Dr. Christine Grant had an enormous influence on women's athletics, even though she wasn't responsible for the creation of Title IX. During her life, she was able to take women's athletics to the next level at the University of Iowa and across the country. In just a few years' time, Grant added 11 varsity women's sports at the University of Iowa, and even before Title IX requirements were being regularly enforced. Additionally, during the 1970-1971 school year, Grant instituted the first women's athletic scholarship budget at Iowa, totaling $70,000, which provided 27 full athletic scholarships for female athletes at the university. Furthermore, the impact of Grant's push to expand gender equity for females in college athletics has resulted in higher women's athletic budgets and scholarship allocations at every federally funded NCAA Division I college and university in the country. Additionally, due to Dr. Grant's relentless efforts to level the playing field for females, women's college athletic participation rates have skyrocketed. Furthermore, high school participation rates have risen as well. For example, in 1971, there were nearly 3.7 million male high school athletes, compared to only 300,000 female high school athletes. Immediately preceding the pandemic in 2019, the number of female athletes stood at 3.4 million, compared to 4.5 million male athletes. Although full equity has not yet been achieved, the progress has been astounding. Grant almost single-handedly led the charge that has resulted in achieving remarkable progress for women's athletics.
First of all, I don't think women's athletics, as we know it today, on a national level would be the same. And not only was she an expert, but she was not afraid to make her, not opinions, because these were facts, these facts known to very important people around the country.
Everything that has been laid out really started with Christine and with her advocacy and her determination to make sure that women had the same opportunities as men.
Today, it is a badge of honor to play like a girl, and female athletes often perform in front of packed houses. More importantly, athletic opportunities have developed a new generation of female leaders who have become coaches, doctors, businesswomen, and more, who continue to expand their influence as role models for young girls in society. Although Grant passed away last year, her legacy lives on through those who continue to carry the torch for this unsung hero's work and persist in her purposeful passion to achieve true gender equity.
Today, I just want you guys to have a piece of Dr. Grant with you as you come through. The thing about Dr. Grant is she did more for women's basketball and girls basketball than anybody I know until now, because I think you guys have surpassed it. our destiny, you guys. It is absolutely our destiny. Man, you guys, the best team, the best circle got it there, ladies.